Thank you very much to Vedanta Study Circle of Boston for organizing this talk. All credit goes to Purnima, who organized this talk and wanted to hear more about this idea. So I'm going to start sharing slides just to give you some idea of what is to come. Uh, this talk will not have too much mathematics. I have whatever mathematics is going to be there, it's going to be a few pictures and a little bit of symbols for those who have a little bit of background in mathematics. I see some of my friends have joined and they like a little bit more math. So I'll have a little bit of notation, but mainly it's going to be pictures. And most all of you are most welcome to ask me more details about the math which I may be able to answer, and about other Vedanta stuff, which many other people may be able to answer better than I can. And it's an informal talk, so you can, if you have a question, please unmute and ask. And questions or comments or suggestions, anything, please, you're most welcome. So let me start sharing my slides. So inversions and Vedanta, flipping the eye. So the idea of reflections is very important in Vedanta and many other spiritual traditions. And reflections are used to emphasize many important concepts. So we'll give a few examples here, and the motivation for this talk is in use a slightly different idea of reflections, which we do not see in Vedanta and elsewhere, but it's very common in mathematics. And this idea came up when I was seeing it came as an insight, and then sometime later I mentioned it, and Purnima really liked it, and she also contributed some very nice ideas to this in our discussion. So for some examples of reflection. So first example, which is very important, is the idea of Chidabhasa, which is reflected consciousness. The idea is the sun here is this is the example which is given to illustrate reflected consciousness. The sun's light is reflecting on the moon, and the moonlight is then reflecting on the earth, and in the at night we can use moonlight to illumine objects. So it's really sunlight, but we call it moonlight. So here the analogy is that the sun is consciousness or awareness, chit, and the moon is the manas, and the reflected light is now called the chidabhas, and it illumines object in darkness, i.e. In Vedantic terms is ignorance. And the Chidabhas is also illustrated with this, again, very popular example of the sun reflected in each of these in each of these water pots. And there are different reflections, but it's a reflection of the same object, which is the sun, which is consciousness. So this is the idea of Chidabhas. The second example is what is called the Pratibhimbavada, the doctrine of reflection. And many images which we see, and statues and so on, we see a mirror. There is a mirror here, which usually the Divine Mother is holding. And the mirror here is is indicating that the world appears as a reflection of consciousness, the pratibimba, and the source is the bimba, which is consciousness, and the reflection is the world in the mind, which is the mirror. So this is the idea of Pratibhimbavad, and this comes up in some scriptures as well, most famously in the first verse of Dakshinamurti Stotra. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyan Atmani Mayaya Bahirivod Bhutam Yatha Nidraya. So the self alone plays as the universe of these names and forms, like a city seen in the mirror. Vishwam Darpana Drushyamana Nagari. So exactly like Drushyaman, like it appears like a reflection in the mirror. And this is due to the Maya, and it's produced as though it is outside. So although the reflection is appearing in the mirror, it appears like it's outside. So this is another very beautiful example of this idea of Pratibhimbavad and world as a reflection. Uh, Third example, if you think of this world is as a reflection, now reflection of what? Reflection of consciousness. And if you see the great Vedantic truth, Tattvamasi, it's our own reflection in a sense. And so the human condition is like that of Narcissus who cannot stop staring at the reflection. So this is the problem, that we cannot just stop sharing at this world of names and forms, which is our own reflection. Another, this is Greek imagery, but also there is a very nice image in the Mahabharata which we see in the Draupadi Swayamvar. This is we all know this great incident where uh, Arjuna is the greatest archer, and the challenge is to look at the reflection and try to uh, place the arrow to throw the arrow at the eye of the fish. And so this also again represents the human condition, whereas in the challenges to look at the reflection is what we are looking at as of the world. And at the same time, while looking at the reflection, we also want to attempt to realize the self, uh, or shoot the arrow exactly in the eye of the fish. So it is subtle and hard while looking at the reflection. So this is a imagery coming from Mahabharat. It's also similar idea, the human condition and the human challenge. Another couple of examples. Reflection is relative. So what that means, yeah, here is a picture of which I took uh, on the beach of the rising sun and its reflection in the water. And what I was very surprised to realize was that this reflection moved along with me. As I moved along on the beach, the reflection moved along with me. And you can try this. And so this is a picture which I've taken with my camera, phone camera, and that actually is capturing a reflection which the phone camera sees, not which I am seeing. So this relative nature of reflection, I thought, was very nicely captured with this. It looks like it is unmoving and absolute, but if you are on the beach and if you walk around, you will see it moves all the time. So each of us is seeing a different reflection of the sun, and how we see it depends upon our position and time and various things. In particular, depends on our mind. That's the relativeness of it. And along this idea, J Krishnamurti emphasizes on this: the other is a mirror. So relationship is a mirror in which you can see yourself, and not as you wish to be, but as you are. So this is a very famous quote, and in his teachings, he again and again emphasizes this idea of using your interactions to actually use it as a mirror to look into how your mind is operating. So this is some examples of how reflection is occurring. So what was the motivation for this talk? It came in a study group which we have, where we are studying Vivek Chudamani from Swami Dayananda Saraswati's book. And in Shloka 43, in that book, which is has a different ordering because there are only selected 108 shlokas from Vivek Chudamani. So this Bijam Samsruti Bhumi Jasya tu Tamo Dehatma Dhir Ankuro Raga Palabambu. So this idea is, this verse describes how the whole ignorance and the world comes about, and this tree of samsara, ignorance is the seed. So bijam tu tamo. So that's the seed, is the ignorance. And dehatmadhi ankuro, the identification with the body, is the sprout. And then from there, raga pallavam babu. So the attachment, raga is attachment, those are its tender leaves. So this idea that identification with the body is the sprout, this is what motivated this discussion about what I'm going to talk about, this reflections in and inversions. So this identification with the body is what we are going to focus on, and in this reflection analogy, how we can see this identification with the body and the corresponding attachment which that generates. So so the concept here is our internal so this is the basic idea, like a summary of what's going to come without the math here. Our internal identification with our body manifests externally as our attachment to the world and its objects. So the stronger the body identification, the stronger is the me and myness to our possessions and relations and everything that our life revolves around. And our as our internal centeredness on our awareness, suppose this centeredness is very strong, then that will manifest externally as dispassion, or more of a witnessing of the what we are involved in, what we call usually sakshi bhava. So the sakshi bhava will be strong if our internal centeredness on our awareness is strong. Whereas if our internal body identification is strong, then externally it will be much more attachment with various things. So that is the basic idea, and you can extend this out as flipping the eye, which is recognizing that all of this identification and internal, external, all of these ideas are appearing in awareness. Not ideas, but these experiences are appearing in awareness, which is sort of the ground of all experience. So before we go to math, are any questions? Okay. So uh, so this is the new ingredient here, is instead of a reflection in a line, which is what we are used to, there is a mathematical idea of reflection in circle. This is called an inversion. So what is the reflection in a circle? If you just take a circle, it's a transformation of the plane, the Euclidean plane as we call it. And the imagine a circular mirror. So the inside of the circle goes to outside, and the outside of the circle goes to inside. So that is what the inversion is. So for example, a point P here will go to P prime, and there's a relationship. If the distance between O and P prime is going to be the reciprocal of the distance between O and P. So for example, if this distance is very, very small, then the reflection of that point is going to be very far from the circle. And if this distance to the circle here is very close by, then the reflection is going to be close to the circle. So the circle itself, every point on the circle is a fixed point. It doesn't move. But that also happens in any reflection along a linear mirror. The point on the mirror is always fixed. It doesn't really have a reflection. So the key point here is that the center goes to infinity. Now, this infinity is the mathematical infinity, but we are going to relate that to the spiritual infinity also. The center here goes to infinity, And well, this is the relationship, and the idea is that if the image or p prime has a reciprocal distance from the origin, then if your point P is the origin, then the distance from the origin is zero, and the reciprocal of zero, 1 over 0, as we all know, is infinity. So that's the idea here. So inside out and outside in. So just to repeat some of the things I said. An inversion, the point on the circle stays fixed. The closer P is to the blue circle, the closer its reflection is to the circle. And the closer P is to the center O, the farther its reflection from the circle. And so here is some example of how it reflects. Uh, this part over here is actually reflecting. It goes outside to this line, and the reason it goes to a line here. So the idea is that this circle actually reflects the in the inversion. It goes to this line. The reason it goes to the line is because the point, this circle, blue circle, passes through the origin, and this origin goes to infinity. So when you invert it, it goes to a straight line. uh, and we are looking at different positions. For example, if this circle is tangent and the line is tangent, similarly if the circle is completely inside the black circle, then the line is farther away from the circle. So this is just giving you sense of how the inversion behaves. So I'm going to add a little bit of math here. I told you there are some friends who like math, and don't worry, you will just have to take a short quiz at the end of the talk. So this is linear reflection. So if you think of the plane, Euclidean plane R2, as the complex number z is equal to x plus iy, then if you reflect it along the x-axis, this goes to x minus iy. That's the complex conjugate z bar. This is the reflection in the x-axis. If you take the reflection in the y-axis, then this reflection goes to goes to negative z bar, which is just minus I plus iy. So this is reflection in straight lines. And if you now take reflection in the circle, which is the inversion which we are talking about, this inversion here, this z here goes to 1 over z bar. So this r and e to the power I theta says that the angle here is the same, but my distance from the origin becomes the reciprocal. So that way, my I of 0 goes to infinity and I of infinity goes to 0. So it switches this center and infinity. That is the inversion. Now, before I go to the next slides, which is really where the spiritual analogy comes in, I just want to mention a little bit that how important inversions are in mathematics, and in particular in geometry. Uh, the reflections in straight lines are circles. These reflections are very important in what are called transformation groups of geometry. For example, if you take any transformation of a geometry, it is a product of three reflections. This is a famous theorem called three reflections theorem. So reflections are very fundamental. They generate all kinds of transformations of any geometry. That is one thing. This whole inversion business, uh, these are actually isometries of what is called hyperbolic geometry, which solved a 2000-year-old math problem posed by Euclid. So this sort of little simple idea of inversion around in mid 19th century was developed into solving a 2000-year-old problem. So as a result, these inversions are related to very, very beautiful mathematics. It's related to hyperbolic geometry. It's related to complex analysis. It's related to dynamics. So it's really very, very beautiful mathematics, and very active field even today. This, for example, this inversions in lines and circles form what is called the group of Mobius transformations, and that is very relevant if you have heard about it. Okay, that is the end of the math part. Any math questions?
Just a quick clarification.
Yes.
The line here where you say that the reflection in the circle with radius 1
Yeah.
and centered at origin O,
Yeah.
which is the complex number 0.
That's correct.
So,
Yes.
okay, so
Yes.
the center is the complex number 0.
That's right. But I've just given the simplest formula, but
Hmm.
you can actually have a reflection about any circle with any center. And what is true is that the center of that circle will go to infinity always. So
Ah,
no matter where the circle is, when you do a reflection in the circle, an inversion in that circle, the center always goes to infinity.
but then the center is always also the complex number 0.
Not really. This is just
Ah.
one specific example, and it's the simplest way to write down the inversion. That's why.
Mm,
This suffices for our purposes. But in general, the way you have a reflection along any line, for example, here I just showed you two reflections, but you
mm,
can have a reflection along any straight line. The same, but for the reflections in x and y axis, the formulas are very easy to write down.
mm.
The same way, you can have a inversion in any circle with any center in the plane and any radius. But all of those inversions will take the center of each circle to infinity.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So that's
I
the
know.
key actually. That's
I
what,
know.
yeah,
That's right.
right.
That's right. So the center always goes to infinity over the with the inversion. Yeah, that's the key for the segue into Vedanta. So here is
Yeah.
the segue into Vedanta now. So here is the circle which is representing the body. Inside the circle is us and the mind and all of our identifications, and outside the circle is the world. And
Is the body outside or inside?
the body is, in some sense, the way we our experience is at the interface of outside and inside,
Yeah,
which is
Abhijit, before you get into the analogies, just a quick
yes,
question. So,
yes.
in the center, when you say it goes out to infinity, is it an infinite circle or is it the whole plane?
This is the plane. This is you're looking at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
plane
So
R2.
I'm thinking like, see, you can approach the center in many different directions. So, the idea is that it's further and further away. So, are you saying at the center, the infinity is a circle of an infinite radius, or is it everything in the plane?
No, infinity is just a point,
Okay.
actually. And in fact, the way this works is if you look at the complex map. I'm sorry to add a little bit more math, but Uh, it's thank you for asking that. This function in complex analysis, it's not holomorphic at z equal to 0, but when you there is a one point compactification of the plane where actually there is a point at infinity which you add, and then on that sphere, or well, all that plane union infinity, the functions make sense, and they are either holomorphic or anti-holomorphic and so on. So actually they are well defined. I know in from our calculus, what we know, 1 over 0 means that's it. We can't do anything, but not so for other kinds of mathematics. The infinity is actually a point, and you can really work with it. It's called the Riemann sphere. You can look at it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So it's actually on the Riemann sphere, you can have these functions well defined, these Mobius transformations. Sorry.
Got- got-
Mm.
Okay, back to Vedanta. So there is the body, which in our experience is the interface between the mind and the world. And the attachments I'm denoting as how close we are to the body. And the closer we are to the body, the reflection of it is the attachment of the world to our body. That's going to be closer. And the center of this circle is the self, is our awareness, Atman. And the closer you are to Atman, which is what I said earlier, the closer you are centered around in your awareness, then its reflection is going to be farther away from the body, and that manifests as vairagya or dispassion to various worldly objects. And so that is the idea of the attachment to the body manifests as the attachment to the world. And I think because it's an inversion, if you do it twice, you will get back to where you started. So because it is an inversion, meaning that the inversion of an inversion is back where you started, you can also work on this from outside. So if you actually reduce your attachment to the world and worldly names and forms, it should also reduce your attachment to your body. So it actually, I think, works both ways. And you can see various spiritual practices do reflect this. One kind of spiritual practices are reducing the attachments to the world, and and with that, this idea of inversion, it will reduce your body attachment. Another kind of practices are reducing your body attachment, and as a result, it will also induce more dispassion. So this is the central picture after all of this analogy of how this inversion, this mirror uh, in a circular mirror, how that gives this sort of idea of inside out and outside in. Um, uh, and you can also notice this in certain instances. Uh, if you, for example, if you go to a new environment, maybe you change your where you live and so on, you can see how easily you are able to adapt. That is a function of how strong you are attached to what you knew before, what you are familiar to you, which is as a result um, is related to and depends upon how much you are attached to your, say, clothes and little things which are much closer to your body. And you can see these things are quite discernible in our day to day life. This sort of relation, this inversion, is what I'm mentioning. So uh, I just want to add one more thing here, which is now if you add more circles. So what I have indicated here on this is these clusters of circles, they are also forming some kind of group identities. So that's why I said the spots and circles. It is a reference to the earlier picture of these many different pots with the sun as a reflection there. And these spots and circles, so there are these groups of circles which are uh, giving rise to group identities also. So, and many different group identities. You can name it whatever group identity. Uh, uh, we just said people from Boston or New Jersey or India, America, religious identities, all kinds of group identities. So these are what the clusters are uh, uh, indicating. And so I just wanted to, the reason I added this picture was it's not just one circle that the attachment and the identity forms, it also has a cluster effect as well. So, uh, so then we come to this flipping the eye idea. So flipping the eye is when you do the inversion, this center which we think is our identity is going to infinity, and everything is flipped open. And so so body and the world, when seen from the standpoint of the ego, it seems solid and central. We live inside our this circle of individuality and our circle of group identity, and we cling on to that various individual thing, family identity, community identity, national identity, uh, identity to Earth, but we haven't yet seen any aliens, so that doesn't really come in question. But that's the that various levels of group identities and individual identity. And when the mind inquires, who am I, the inversion happens. And so the observer and observed are flipped. And so as a result of this, when that flip occurs, this body is now seen not as something belonging to me, but just as an object in awareness or in consciousness. And that that enables us to just have a sakshi bhav, a very strong sakshi bhav. The witnessing awareness is then revealed as the unchanging center. So all of the centers of the circles seem different, but they are in some sense unchanging, because after an inversion, they are all infinity. So they are actually unchanging. So that is where this comes up, that although the centers are different for every circles, under the inversion, they all go to infinity. So that is where the sort of nice analogy of math and Vedanta kind of came through uh, with this in addition to that. So, uh, and this inversion will do this undoing of the clinging, uh, because it's an inversion of the perspective. There is no longer me and mine, but really all of this is appearing in one awareness. And so, what was once seen as the center, which is our ego, is now recognized as a reflected point in an infinite field of awareness. So another math idea uh, which captures this flipping the eye. Okay, so this. By the way, before I go ahead, any questions?
Could you,
Yeah,
app-
I
could,
was.
could you
uh,
apply this to kaleidoscopic picture?
Yes, yes. Kaleidoscopic picture is iterated reflections in different circles.
Right.
Yes, and so that is what it is. It is generating. I am only looking at one reflection, but now if you actually compose these reflections along different circles, you that will create a kaleidoscope effect.
Mm.
Yes, and so that sort of kaleidoscope will generate an infinite looking pattern, but they are actually coming from the same base object. So, for
Right.
example, you can see this kaleidoscope effect in Escher's work. Escher did a lot of work with various sort of flipping around the same image in different ways, and you see this work see this sort of effect in Escher's work. And Escher actually used this flipping inversions very much, because his some of his works are actually paintings are what is called the hyperbolic plane. Yeah.
Mm.
So you get this sort of kaleidoscopic idea, but the kaleidoscope starts with the same, only one thing which is being reflected in different things. Yes, that's a very nice point. I didn't think of it. Yes, Kumar, you have a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, namaste, Abhijit ji. So can you go to that one slide with the single circle? Yeah. So what have you labeled as the mind here?
The mind is really a nebulous a nebulous thing, which really is sukshma. So it's really not labeled as anything particular.
Hmm.
I've tried to preserve the subtleness of the mind.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
really, what it really means is the space between this self and the body, and
Hmm.
it's this space of attachments basically, and
Hmm.
identification and experiences. So it is a little nebulous. Yeah.
Okay. But there is no significance for the mind being inside the circle that is the body, right?
In our experience, that is right. It's not we know that there is the body in some sense appears in the mind, not the other way around. But in our experiential thing, and mainly the somehow the mind and the body, this is the relative positions which I put, because the attachment to the body I wanted to show is reflected on the outside. That is why.
Could
Okay.
you comment on first was the first line of Dakshinamurti Stotram, this inversion that Adi
Yeah,
Shankar described?
yeah. Uh, So with the reflection here, that verse is talking about a reflection of the city in the mirror, and as though it is appearing outside. Uh,
Uh,
this picture is not trying to capture that idea. That is
uh,
a different idea. Yeah, that this is not. I'm not claiming this is capturing that idea.
So, Abhijit, I had a
Yes,
question. So inversion looks like a technical term.
yes,
The second thing is when you say I, you're talking, I guess, about the ego.
yes,
Because you have to now say, what is your I? I is
yes.
obviously not the self because it's
That's
moving.
right.
And I
Yes,
is obviously not the mind and not the body. So I has to
yes,
be ego.
that's
Right?
right.
And
Yeah.
what is inversion, according to mathematician?
The inversion is a reflection in this circle, right? Where the inside of the circle goes to outside and the outside goes to inside. Yeah.
Yeah, along the same lines, I was just thinking that if the center of the circle in the previous picture where we were saying that that's the ego, when the circle is not yet inverted, I mean, it's just the center is the
Yes.
ego. And we were saying that it's in that example, you were saying it's a complex number zero. So I was just drawing an analogy that it's like ego is zero, meaning
Yeah.
that, it doesn't really exist. But when it's inverted, it becomes the infinite self,
Right.
which is the reality of everything.
Right.
So just an analogy again between zero and ego being zero in that sense.
Right. So I'm now going to show you that this there is another picture which shows all of these centers go to infinity, and this is the picture of the stereographic projection. So stereographic projection is a map is a association, a relation from the from the sphere to the plane. It's very important because this is how they started doing maps. So stereographic projection is very old, and it's one of the simplest way to uh, to project a sphere onto the plane. And so clearly, it is very much used in cartography of how we draw maps. And here, the idea is that you take the North Pole and you draw a line from any point on the sphere, and this straight line intersects the plane, and that is where the projection is. Now, the interesting part here is the circles on the plane go to circles on the sphere. So when you start doing inversions on the plane, you can also see this as an inversion on the sphere, and all of the centers go to the North Pole actually. So that is the interesting part here. And the North Pole, as I said before, in this case on the sphere is actually known as the point at infinity. This is a mathematical term, but it happens so that I'll just put, so well, here is a little GIF which I found, which is showing how the circle in the plane is uh, is a projection of a circle on the sphere. See, so that's the North Pole, and you are projecting a circle in the plane, a circle on the sphere to a circle in the plane. Very nice. That's actually the explicit mathematical formula of the map. So um, the point I'm making here is that when you do this inversion in a plane, you can also similarly do an inversion on the sphere along that circle, and the center will go to the same point, which is the North Pole, which is the point at infinity. And so, from that point of view, this flipping the eye, all of these centers which appear different and are the same infinity under the inversion. And this is the metaphor for the very famous Bhagavad Gita verse, the self is all and all is the self. So, Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam Sarva Bhutani Chatmani. So the yogi established in union sees the self present in all beings and all beings in the self. such a person sees the same reality everywhere. And the idea here is that all of these different circles with their centers, which appear different, uh, under an inversion, even if you think of this as something on the sphere, they all invert, and all of these centers are actually going to this one point, and uh, these circles are actually projection from that point. So yeah, the analogy, of course, it's an analogy, it has its limitations, but I thought this was very nice that this verse, the self in all and all in the self, you can actually have some analog and some picture um, in terms of these inversions, but now you just have to extend a little bit and see the inversion in a sphere. So that is what the this last picture is representing. So with that, that's the end of the talk. So thank you for listening, and more questions or comments.
I don't have a question, but I think mantra number 6 or mantra number 7, I'm trying to remember, of Ishavasya Upanishad, also the same thing. Self and
Yes.
all in very similar.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We
Very Upanishad.
actually we meet with Shrikant and some other people for Ashtavakra Gita, and just on Monday we did this Ashtavakra 15 chapter verse 4 or verse 5, and it's the exactly the first sentence which completely is almost copied word to word in Ashtavakra Gita. So that was very interesting that just on Monday we saw this the same sentence, um, and then there is a nice representation of this in some sort of what is called stereographic projection.
Which sloka is that in Ashtavakra?
It's 15.4 or 15.5, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make a comment.
Yes.
It's very interesting how you brought that up. Oh, somebody I know recently educated her 2 kids in homeschooling, and she's very into Vedanta. She was saying that mathematics is the only thing she taught other than, didn't teach biology and physics and such. Basics of all science was mathematics. And that was enough for the kids to come till they went to high school or something like that.
Wow.
Yes, you will get
Wow,
to meet
that's
her.
quite amazing.
I'm going to invite her one of these days, and I want you to, yeah, phenomenal. She's brilliant, and she was saying the only science that really matters to understand, from the Vedantic perspective and life itself is mathematics, and everything else
Okay.
grows on it. Chemistry
I
comes from mathematics, and biology comes from chemistry, and we had a long discussion about that.
Wow.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I would love to talk to her more.
Yeah, she will. We'll getting her probably in May. Very interesting. She's done a great job. I can see how.
Yeah,
All right.
this is yes, Shriram ji.
Yeah, go.
Namaskar. You are muted.
Are you telling me?
Oh, okay.
No, there is
Can you hear
another
me now?
Shriram ji. Yes, Shriram ji. Yeah.
Ah,
Yes.
very beautiful job. Thank you. Congratulations. Question. In the Gita, you mentioned in chapter 9.5, this Nachamastani Bhutani, Pashyame Yogameshwaram. So Bhagavan first says, all are in me, I am in all, but then he says, I am not in all. Can that be represented in mathematical formulation? Nachamastani Bhutani?
That's a very good question. I do not know. Because all of these things where we are talking about is all inversions, and it's all about transformations. And that verse 9.5 is a sort of a bold statement on Ajatavad. So no origination and no transformation. So this rubric which I'm presenting here is a little bit limited to be able to go anywhere near Ajatavad. So
maybe your next talk could be on that subject.
Yeah, it's hard to do math and Ajatavad, right? Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
can you
Abhijit,
hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I don't know whether it is a question or a point. If you look at so circle is uh, our awareness, right? Of world.
The circle is the body, and inside the circle is the mind, which is awareness of the body, which is aware of the body and the world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you identify the circle, then it becomes a sphere, right?
Uh, no, sphere is a two-dimensional object.
No. If you take a circle, which is a in an inside part,
Yes,
but
that's a
but
disk. Yes.
yeah, but we are identifying only the boundary and adding a point. You were talking about Riemann.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
that idea, the sphere, you can
Mm,
think of this as the whole plane, and now you can think of kind of scrunching the plane into kind of see this stereographic projection. If I just go back a little bit, what
mm.
stereographic projection does is this north pole doesn't really have an image on the plane. And if you delete the North Pole, there is this formula right over there. And this formula will show you that the sphere minus the North Pole is in one-to-one correspondence with the plane. So this is the sphere the Riemann sphere, which is the plane union one point, which is the North Pole. But there is more going on to
So,
this picture than that. But
but are you
the whole plane you can sort of compactify it by adding this one point, which is the North Pole, the point at infinity, and make it into a sphere. So that is a topological construction. Yeah.
so I was just wondering what that point would be
That point, the
in
way
Shubham.
in this analogy which I am presenting, that point is the Brahman. And
Brahman. Okay. Yeah,
yes,
that's
yes,
precisely what I was asking.
and this green dots over here of various circles, this is the Chidabhasa, which is
Mhm.
the reflected consciousness in each and every person. But then, when you actually do the inquiry, you see that the reflected consciousness, the it gets flipped, and you see that this consciousness actually is the same in everybody.
I see. Yeah.
So that is
Thank
this
you.
picture that the inversion actually gives you the same point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you.
all of the centers appear different, are the same under the inversion. Yeah.
Mm.
yeah, that
It also
makes me
comes up
think,
in 13th
Abhijit,
chapter.
quick
Yes.
question on that. So that also makes me think that if the boundary of the circle vanishes,
Yeah.
right, the
Yeah.
thing that you were calling the body,
Yes.
right? So if that vanishes, then
Yes.
uh, every center or like every point becomes Brahman.
Yeah, but all the other bodies also have to vanish. So
Yeah, yeah.
somehow it is it is when one this body attachment drops, that is, I think, one step, but there are other bodies also, whereas this inversion perspective does the flip all at once.
Mm.
Yeah. So that is, I think, the sort of the 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 nice novelty about this inversion is that with the inversion, all of these points go to infinity.
Yeah, which is
Right. So
Brahman.
that's the inversion of the perspective.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yes, Sriramji and Sudhirji. Yes, Sriramji, your hand was first.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, sir. Quick question. Are you able to depict Jiva Srishti and Ishwar Srishti in your formulas? And last,
I can think about it. This is only because Purnimaji said, "Oh, this is a nice idea. Why don't you explain more?" That's why I put it together. I haven't thought about this. There may be
okay.
some more ideas. Yes.
And one more idea is ahamaiva idam sarvam. So instead of
Yes.
body being outside mind, the body is inside the mind, and the mind is inside
Yes.
itself. So it's
Y-
inversion.
y-
Can you depict
Yes.
that at another day?
Sure, I will have to think about it. Yes, but
Okay.
that inversion perspective gives you that ahameva idam sarvam, because the moment you invert, you are infinity, and in infinity appears all of this. Yeah. Yes, Sudhirji.
Thank you.
Abhijit, great presentation. Just a quick question that when you drew the circle and the body, the goal is to go to the center, right?
Yes. Again, when you say to
In
go to
other
the
words, when you go
center,
to the center, then the reflection will be infinite, right? And that
yes,
will cover the whole world, right? That's how the
right.
Brahman
That
is.
is right. Yes, yes. The
So I
inversion
think
will
it's a
cover
very,
the
very
whole
good
world.
idea. Very good
Yes,
idea about the body being a circle, and the goal of Vedanta is to go to the center of the circle.
yes.
Yes.
That is right.
Yes,
Yes,
very good concept.
yes. So if there are no more questions, we can do the closing chant, Purnima ji.
We can do the Purnamada.
Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Om Shri Brahmarpanamastu.
Awesome. Thank you.
Namo Ramana.
Excellent.
Namo Ramana, Namo Ramana. Good to see all of you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.